Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's go, let's go. Bucket hats, here we go. Oh, don't leave me hanging, don't leave me hanging.
Okay.
Guys, we're maybe going to record with these. So Anya's mom got them made.
She made like 40 of them for all of my friends and family that came to support at Copenhagen.
Oh my word.
But her idea is to wear them now at all my, if I do any more international races, and get badges for like each of my times across them. Which is quite cool. This is going in my running cave. Thank you so much for mine.
But yeah, pretty much Anya had her own barmy army in a way. And how many were there?
Like 37, I think.
Okay, so 37 family members, supporters, boyfriend, like parents, everything. But it was hilarious because like en route, how many points did they get to?
Oh, my mum saw me like 12 times. That was one thing about Copenhagen. The route was so good for spectators.
It was really, really good. But like, okay, so let's just say they got to 10 points and there was almost 40. So we saw these things 400 times on the route. They were literally popping up everywhere, which was amazing. Like you need that support in a marathon. So yeah, honestly, it was awesome. But yeah, first time representing England. So just to remind you, Anya, she qualified to represent England running at 2:36 at London Marathon last year. And then you went 2:34 at Copenhagen. Yeah. It started out with a lot of drama before the race, more so on my behalf. So you got there a few days before, right?
Yes, I was staying in the athlete hotel. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So first time ever doing the athlete experience as well, which we'll get to. My plan was always to come through and run with Anya. And yeah, so I was super excited for it as well. However, there was a massive curveball the day before. As you know, often with races, there's always some sort of drama. So I kind of expected a bit, but not this much. So long story short, I kind of mentioned it in the race video, but my flight was booked under Nick Bester, and my full name's Nicholas Bester, and I knew one day that would get to me, and I always triple check this stuff. For some reason, I think I must have put my email address and it auto-populated everything, and I'd written out Nicholas anyways. I got to check in and they issued me my boarding pass in the name of Nick Bester. Obviously, I didn't double check it. I haven't told you this part yet though. So I got to board the plane, and they actually checked my ticket and they said it says Nick Bester, but she let me through, and I was like, okay, cool, like that's fine. But I thought, so I was already through, I was about to board the plane, and I thought, I hope it's not going to be an issue when I come back from Copenhagen. Like, let me just double check. So I actually came out of I was about to get on the plane, which I should have just got on the plane. So I came out to check with her, and she said, oh my word, I thought this was your return leg, not your outbound leg. So she was like, in that case, you're not allowed to get on the plane. Oh my word. And then you have to get a thing, it's called decontrolled at the airport.
Escorted out.
So they escort you through these passages you didn't even know existed. That whole process took an hour. There was one more flight.
Oh my God.
That was 3 hours. Like, I honestly, at that point in time, I thought chances are low that I'm going to get on the flight. But I messaged Anya, and she was expecting me to be there almost. And I said, don't worry, don't stress. Like, I'll be there. Yeah. I've missed my flight. And then, yeah, it took... I was that person sprinting through the train stations, the airports, like, I caught a train. I caught... what else did I catch? And then a taxi, yeah. And I booked my plane tickets in the taxi. And I made it there. And yeah, the one reason why I nearly almost didn't make it was because at border control, they picked up my massage gun. And that took ages to pick up. And I thought, if my massage gun's the reason that I'm going to miss this flight, like, that's just a comedy. Like, that's just classic. But anyways, we got there in the end.
I'm so pleased you did come though. Like, it meant so much.
No, it worked out so well. And I think, you know what, it almost made the day, like, better. Because, like, sometimes you got to go through something like that. But yeah, let's start off with the race. So, you know, like we said, you finished 2:34. Yeah. Given the conditions, given the race, position-wise, were you happy with the result? Yes, I was. I thought... well, at one point I was going for like 3:32 pace, which was a bit too quick, but if I could have sustained it, I would have given it a go. But I think I peaked a little bit too early in my training, basically.
But I felt really good, and it was just the heat that got to me in the end, and maybe I hadn't done as many long runs as I could have. As in like long runs at marathon pace kind of things. They're real tough, grinding out sessions. But yeah, I was really happy with the pace, with the time. I overtook quite a few girls in the last 10k, so I think everybody did fade in the last 10k, but I did keep it together somewhat. I was aiming for 3:37 a kilometre pace. My actual time got me 3:40 a kilometre.
Okay.
But Strava says 3:37 because you ran a bit further.
Yeah, for
so I didn't fade too much.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And finishing position-wise?
I was,
top 10?
Yeah, top 10, which I've never done with such a field like that as well. And second Brits. And to be honest, I was just so happy to be there and be on the start line and finishing. So many people didn't finish because of the heat. So many people got injuries in the build-up. So yeah, I was over the moon.
Didn't you find it like surprising how many elites had pulled off to the side?
Yeah.
Like often you see a few, but in this race there was a substantial amount. And I think that must have been because of the weather. So what temperature did it get to? Do you remember?
It got to 23 by the time I'd finished. And it doesn't seem that hot, but it was so still. Yeah. Like the weather was so still. And when you're
that
20 miles in, you're expanding so much heat anyway. You were passing people and feeling just their heat. Like, it was mental.
Yeah, for sure. So to those who smashed it, like you, well done. Philly as well, special shout out to her. She went 2:29 in that heat. Like, that is just awesome. And I think, you know what, had we been able to train in that heat, it would have been a different story. Yeah. But London, like the hottest it got to in training wise was like 16 degrees. And I mean, I was running with Anya and just thinking, oh, there's not much shade in the second half. Like first half was chilled, but first half is always going to be chilled. And then it just starts like baking you. And then I thought, this is her shot. Like my shot was Seville Marathon where I went 2:21. And I was cooking, guys. Like I was hot, and like I think, you know, we both thrive in like cooler weather. So I was just like, what are the chances of both days being like hotter than ideal? But I suppose that's race day, and yeah, it just adds to the results being more impressive. I think, like I said, in my view, on like a Berlin or a Valencia in good conditions, it's probably about 2 minutes quicker or so. So I think, like I said before, had you had the perfect race in perfect weather, you probably could have gone around 2:32. So given the conditions, 2:34 I think is a awesome result.
Thank you.
Okay, so first time representing England as well, and having the like elite athlete experience. Just to remind you, Anya's come from like a very social background just 3 years ago, and now representing England. So like, how did you feel like you belonged there? Like, did it feel like there was extra pressure representing England, or did you just soak up the experience?
I think I soaked up the experience. I've said this a few times, but after London, I easily could have got caught up in it too much, and thought, okay, how do I look like an athlete? How do I train like an athlete? How do I do all this? But in reality, I'm doing so well, like why change anything? Like, I've still got a bit of balance in my life. And I felt like I wanted to embrace this experience running for England. And I almost felt like getting the England vest and qualifying and getting on the start line, getting into the athlete hotel, getting into the team was the hard bit. And then I just had to enjoy the race and just absorb everything. I was like a sponge, like chatting to every single amazing athlete there, every single pacer. I shared a room with Philly, which was so cool. I got in quite late to the athlete hotel, and I didn't know how athlete hotels work. I didn't know you shared rooms. And so I like stumbled, not because I was drunk, because I was so tired, stumbled into like my room, and I was like, shit, there's someone else in the bed. And I was like, what? And I was so confused, and I like put a message on the group chat being like, oh, we meant to be sharing rooms. And I was like, who is it? And I didn't want to turn on the room, so I like put my phone torch on and like peeked around, and I saw like vlogging things, and I saw some OTE, I don't know, nutrition. I was like, okay, it's Philly, that's fine, I'll chat to her in the morning. But
man, that's hilarious. So they didn't tell you were sharing a room at all. They just said, this is your room number, and surprise.
I think I was so naive to the whole like pro athlete experience. Yeah, I had no idea.
But yeah, I think, you know, we can all learn from that once again as well. Like, marathons can be scary. Imagine with the added pressure of representing your country, having like not had much of a social media presence before, now having a big social media presence, like expectations, so on and so forth. So there's the added pressure, but actually like you got there because of what you do and you just did what you do best. And I think, you know, we can all learn from that. Like even if you don't have an active social media profile, like marathons can be daunting for all of us. And often I've seen like the daunting part get the better of people and they actually start like stressing and not enjoying it. Whereas, I mean, you just soaked up the experience. Like what was going to be, like it was always going to be that. You're always going to give it your best shot. So you may as well just enjoy it.
I've got quite a strong head. I think in my head, I was like, I know I've trained better and more consistently and have a bigger mileage base than I did for London. So it should be a PB and I'm happy as long as it's a PB.
Did you find like, because it was mid-May and it was a bit later than the other marathons, there was obviously like Manchester and London and like all of those big ones. Did you find that like you were getting like a bit anxious waiting for your race to come? Or was it like actually motivating seeing other people, especially like at Best Athletic smashing it, then like using that energy to for yours?
Well, when I say like I think I peaked too early, maybe I didn't peak too early, but mentally everybody who I was training with for so long had checked out because they'd done their marathon. So the last few weeks I still had to keep my head in the game and they didn't. So maybe it was just a mental like struggling to keep my head in the game because my training was better. Of course it motivated me seeing everyone at London, but when that rain was coming down, people were like, do you wish you were racing? And I was like, not one single bit.
But yeah, I think we mustn't underestimate just how much of a 2-minute PB in those conditions is. Like if we keep knocking 2 minutes off, then you're gonna have a few rings tattooed on you before you know it. So yeah, it's definitely another step in the right direction. Okay, so first time ever grabbing bottles on the run. I want to hear Anya's side of it. And guys, we haven't actually debriefed that much since the race because life's just been crazy. So we'll use this as our debrief as well. But I want to hear your version and then I'll tell you exactly how it was from a standby point of view.
So everyone was doing their bottles in the hotel and I was like, wow, I didn't bring any bottles. Like there were Morton packages being delivered to the hotel for like the pro elite athletes, like with all the mini bottles. And I was like, well, what do I do? Do I go buy some fruit shoots? And the race organisers with the England athletics team got me some bottles, but they were huge. And I hadn't practiced grabbing bottles. I thought I probably should have, but I was so busy like with my job, full-time job, and I just was like, let's just get the running done.
To grab bottles
no, so I'd never, I'd practice a bit with bottles, but I'd always stopped to take them and then carry on running. So if you watch the videos, I like go full 2 hands, grab them. It's like, there's nothing fluid or professional about it. So that's the next, a few seconds I can gain. They were also far too big for my little hands. But I was also speaking to the England team doing the bottles and I was like, I don't really know how, I knew I wanted to use Morton. I'd practiced a bit with Morton. I didn't know how much to mix them by or mix them with. They also told me I shouldn't use tap water because the calcium levels are wrong and it makes the Morton go gloopy, and I didn't know any of this. So I was so naive. So they helped me mix the bottles the day before. I had loads of fun decorating them, but they also weren't every 5 kilometre mark, which I was expecting them to be, which would be far easier to work out. So then I had to sit down and work out which points do I want bottles, and I taped energy gels onto them all, just in case my stomach couldn't hold the fluid. But my stomach didn't cause me any grief actually. It was absolutely fine.
So I think, you know what, first of all, you learn from each race, and we've learned that those massive bottles that you had, like we could see them on the table from miles away. We're like, there's Anya's bottle. It was like this huge, like proper, like 600 or 700 mils, like it was massive. And so I think, easier ones that you can grab with your hand. Okay, cool. As far as the amount of liquid for Morton, it says on the packaging. So at least you know for next time. And you know what? I think like from what I saw, you were losing a few seconds at each drink stop. So you were grabbing it quite nicely, but then you were significantly slowing down to sip it. Obviously because you're not used to it and you haven't practiced it. And in the past, seconds didn't matter that much. Like you could enjoy a drink. But there's definitely gains to be made there. So we'll have to set up a drink station in Battersea for some of the bigger sessions coming up.
I will.
But all in all, like summarize the experience for you in a few words.
like mind-boggling. Like I just still look back at it and be like, was that real? And I literally was so excited for the next races, and just I don't want to get greedy. I'm more than happy with those 2 minutes. Next marathon, hopefully a few more minutes. Next marathon, a few more minutes.
Nice.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
I think from my side, like I've obviously coached Anya for over 2 years now, and I've run a lot with Anya, and you're super positive and you've got a really good poker face, sometimes to the point that I don't know if you're pushing as hard as you should be. But in this race, I can confidently say we were pushing like on her limits, because if you look at the way we ran London, sort of like negative split style, and negative split is more your style. I think given the temperature in the second half and getting more and more tough, you kind of even said to me at a stage, you were like, okay, it's not going to be a negative split. And I like acknowledged it. I was like, okay, that's Anya's way of saying it's getting tough, which is great. But I was like, but you're still on track for a massive PB.
Yeah.
And I think we lost about a minute or a minute and a half in the last sort of like 15 Ks, which is not bad going. We're still overtaking people quite a lot.
Exactly.
But, you know, in ideal conditions, the ideal way you run, we'd probably look to make up a minute and a half. But yeah, different race, different conditions.
It's a huge learning experience.
Exactly. But it was nice to see you actually push to limits I haven't seen before. So I thought I was like, Anya's pushed to her max, and then 5 minutes afterwards you were completely fine.
Yeah, it kind of goes in waves. I still managed to sprint finish.
Yeah, you ran Hackney half the week after, pacing your boyfriend, like running pretty comfortably. So maybe she didn't push hard enough, and she needs to push a bit harder. Okay, cool. So awesome. And I'm really proud of you. Like seriously, that's another huge achievement, another step in the right direction. The support out there was absolutely insane.
Thank you to everybody.
The feedback from the video was awesome. We managed to capture a lot of good content of actual Copenhagen routes. If ever you considering doing it, I would recommend it.
It was amazing. Amazing marathon. Yeah, do it.
And it's got a good field. It's quite quick. Hopefully conditions will be a bit better when you do it. Okay, so now moving forward, give us a quick little update in your life, and then we'll go on to future races.
Okay, I've had a good month off, which I needed mentally, like checking out. I was still running. But like last week was my first time back up to 100k, which is kind of like my base level. Definitely pushing much higher to like 140k weeks coming up. Yeah, so I've got Berlin Marathon, which is the A race, but obviously that's 40 weeks away, a long time away. I've got a few shorter distance races in the meantime. I need to work on my shorter distance and my fast twitch muscles 100%. I never pushed myself on track that much. I never really get into red zones other than weekend sessions. So yeah, so many learning things, but I need to train a bit smarter, train a bit harder. That's going to be helped so much by me quitting my corporate job. I'm going to build in strength training because I'm going to have time to do that now. So far more strength and conditioning, far more recovery, far better eating, just because I was living such a busy, hectic life. I was like constantly running on autopilot. But yeah, but just keep everything else the same. Keep the running on like this upwards trajectory. Perfect, and then all the extra 1%. I think
that's exactly what we need is, if you look at Anya's marathon pace, it's not too far from your 5k pace, actually. So the way to do that is we need to really snap you out of your comfort zone, get that shorter distance speed up, even if it's not what you want to hear. And then we'll progress that all the way through and reach new levels that way. But yeah, I know you doing Norwich 10k, big half, Berlin Marathon. A lot of us in the team are doing the Essex London 10k, big half, and Berlin Marathon. And yeah, I mean, Berlin Marathon's shaping up to be insane. So I know Calvin Kipsum's confirmed. So you think the world record's going to go down? I think it stands a pretty good chance, especially if conditions are decent. And I know they're really trying to get Kipchoge there as well. It'll be like the ultimate showdown. So hopefully, you know, Kipsum's clearing the path, and then I'm going for a sub 220. Let me be confident this is going to be the one.
Happening.
So I'll be clearing the path after him, and then you'll come through. But then again, and you'll be targeting a nice PB there as well. If we have a good build and good conditions, which let's be positive we will. But then again, it's a marathon and anything can happen. You could overtake Calvin Kiptum and me, so we won't get too ahead of ourselves.
But we can train a bit together. Exactly.
So we've got just under 14 weeks. I'm gonna do an 8-week build. on my channel. Maybe you should do the same on your channel.
Just similar workouts, slightly adapted. Yeah.
Especially now that you can be flexible time-wise. I've got to drop the little one off at nursery, so I do my track sessions later, so you can join for those, which would be cool. And yeah, that'll just be awesome. So I know we kind of like always have had competition between myself and Anya. Her progression's just dominating mine, I must say. So you've been running properly for like maybe 3 years. I've been running properly for 10 years. And I started at a 3:17 marathon and have come down to a 2:20. You started at a 4:36 and have come down to 2:34, which I can't really compete with. But yeah, she beat me to an England vest. But I must tell you, I haven't actually shown you this yet. But just before we started recording, I got a knock on the door and my British passport arrived. Awesome.
We can't both be an England vest.
Yeah, so now she has my motivation to try and get myself an England vest one day, because that'll be awesome. If I can't, then I'll just have to get you to make the Olympics and be a coach in the stands and say back in my day I was a decent runner. But yeah, so good to catch up with you.
Thank you. And thank you everybody. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, guys, thanks for the support. It's been amazing. And still getting started.
Yeah, exactly. Okay?
Yeah. Should we get that short distance speed up?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, let's put our bucket hats on. Let's go.